So this is a crazy category, and I'm actually anticipating this one, and it probably won't be on TV. This is Outstanding Guest Actress in a Drama Series. We have 3 nominees from Mr. and Mrs. Smith, 1 from The Crown and 1 from the Morning Show. So we have Marcia Gay Harden from The Morning Show. We have Claire Foy from The Crown. And from Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we have Michaela Coel, Sarah Paulson, and Parker Posey. Now, as much as I love Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I am amazed that it's gotten this many nominations. Because it did really well, but I just didn't think the Emmy voters would dig it, but they did. Now, this is a crazy category because any of these women could win, and I don't know who. So I'll just go through. First, I'll go through the non-Mr. and Mrs. Smith nominees first. Claire Foy for The Crown. I like Claire Foy. I don't know what it is about her, but every time I see her on anything, I want to see more. So the thing about her nomination was she won in 2018 for The Crown for playing young Queen Elizabeth. She was nominated in 2017. She didn't win, but she won for 2018. So, and if you know The Crown, they change Queen Elizabeth all the time as she aged. So you can, unless they, I guess maybe they thought about maybe putting makeup on Claire Foy to keep her, to age her, but they just kind of always kept on replacing. And all the queens has been great. So for this last season of The Crown, which dealt with Charles and Di, the first episode, they did a flashback with young Queen Elizabeth, which was Claire Foy. It's like, oh my God, Claire Foy's back. But it was short-lived. It wasn't like they was going back and forth. It wasn't like Godfather 2. That would have been interesting, though, if you kept on going back and forth to young Elizabeth and old Elizabeth. But no, it was nice seeing Claire Foy again. And she could win. It's just, I don't think the Emmy voters are into The Crown like they were back in 18 and 19. But she could win just for sentimental reasons. Marcia Gay Harden in the Morning Show. I did not see her performance in the Morning Show, so I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna say like she was good or bad because I don't know. But I know she's a very good actress, and I know the Morning Show is a very good show. So whoever she played, I'm sure she was really good at it. And there's been a lot of scuttlebutt about Call Me Todd getting canceled. People like the show. It got canceled. CBS did some interesting things, canceling shows. They did that with NCIS Hawaii, I think. A lot of people upset with these shows getting canceled, and maybe the Emmy voters felt like Marcia Gay Harden got screwed by CBS, and maybe they might vote for her for the Morning Show. I don't know, but given the show and given her talent, I'm sure she did well on that show. So let's get to the Mr. and Mrs. Smith nominees. Michaela Coel. Now, I wasn't a big fan of I Must Destroy You. I think that was on HBO. Like, critics loved that show. It was okay. But, so I was intrigued when I heard that she was going to be on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, because I was like, well, who is she going to play? And I think it was like halfway through the season. And, or midway through the season someplace. And she was playing Donald Glover's friend, John. He was his character, John, his friend. And at that point of the series, John and Jane were having some marital issues. So it was interesting because on one hand, you're watching what would happen if a guy just has a female friend and how his wife deals with that. And then the other hand, you got the spy situation. So it was a really good episode. And Michaela Coel is one of the reasons why I hope that Donald Glover and Maya Erskine would come back, because there's a lot more to that interaction that I would like to see. Because she was really good at it. And she could very easily win because that episode was really good. Sarah Paulson was in another episode when John and Jane was talking to their therapist, which is a nod to the movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie as they sit on the couch talking. Sarah Paulson is a multi-talented actress. She's almost like, she's good in everything. There's not anything, I don't think I've ever seen a bad Sarah Paulson performance. And she just won the Tony this year too. So, and that's why sometimes this happens if someone wins another major award. Another one might give, if they're nominated, they might get another one. So because Sarah won the Tony, she could, the voters might say, well, she's having a hot streak. Why don't we give her an Emmy as well? So there's a chance that Sarah Paulson could win an Emmy. But, when you go back to her time on American Horror Story, she plays so many different characters, man. Like, it's amazing. The thing that always intrigues me about Sarah Paulson is like her relationship with Holland Taylor, because like I'm intrigued by because there's a big age gap between them. They've been together for years. Like I remember Holland from Bosom Buddies, and then she was on Two and a Half Men, playing the mom there. And it was like, wait, Holland Taylor and Sarah Paulson are a couple? Like, how did this happen? But I think Sarah was saying like they're still together, but they live in separate homes. Yeah, that makes sense. It keeps everybody happy that way. So I think so. But Sarah Paulson's really good as that therapist. Like if you want to if you wonder how your therapist is after you leave your sessions, watch that episode. And then last we have Parker Posey. Parker Posey, I would give the award to Parker Posey. Parker Posey, of all of them, everybody else on this list was in one episode, and Parker Posey was in multiple episodes of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. She played a spy, an older, more veteran Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It was Parker Posey, and I think the dude's name is Wagner, I think. And it was great. Their John and Janes were fantastic because Donald Glover and Maya Erskine's John and Jane were in all of Parker and her dudes, John and Jane, because they're more seasoned spies and, they seem cool and all that stuff. It's like, wow, we got to impress them. And if there was a prequel to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I would really love to watch Parker Posey and I think Wagner's portrayal of how they met as John and Jane and their journey, because they was almost like they were on a higher level as spies, that Donald Glover and Maya Erskine wasn't even close to. They was always like, well, what's that like? So yeah, I would love to see how they became the spies they became. But Parker Posey's been around for a long time. Parker Posey was like an indie sweetheart. She's never won an Emmy. She's never won an Oscar. She's won the Spirit Awards and things like that. But she's a fine actress, and she's always fun and compelling to watch. And like when she was on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, it's like, man, she just popped on the screen. Like just her and her partner on the show were just fantastic together. And for my troubles, if I had to give an award to any of them, I would give it to Parker Posey. But if not Parker Posey, I would probably give it to Michaela Coel. All those episodes of Mr. and Mrs. Smith were great. And if you're one of those people who bailed out after the second or third episode, go back and finish it. Please, you will not be disappointed. And if all you did, it's like, Kevin, I'm not watching that show. Fine. Just watch the episodes, the Michaela Coel episode, watch the Sarah Paulson episode, and watch those Parker Posey episodes. And you tell me that show's not good. Anywho, I love this category. I wish this category was on TV. I don't think that's going to happen. But man, I'm impressed.